At some point, life will drag you into deep waters, whether you're ready or not. One moment, everything is familiar, manageable. The next, you're caught in something bigger than you, something you can't control. And in that moment, you have a choice. Will you fight it? Will you exhaust yourself trying to hold on to what's slipping away, gripping so tightly to what was that you drown under the weight of it? Or will you surrender, not in defeat, but in trust? Surrender isn't losing. It's finally admitting the truth. You were never in control to begin with. It's the moment you stop trying to force life to fit your expectations and start seeing it for what it really is. And that truth, it's not always pretty. Sometimes it tells you that the thing you're depending on is already gone, that what you're clinging to so desperately is the very thing holding you back. But we resist. We tell ourselves that letting go means failure, that if we just push harder, try more, hold on longer, we can fix it. But at what cost? How many times have you forced something that was already breaking? How often have you held on to a relationship that was draining you, a habit that was destroying you, a mindset that was trapping you? We think if we just give a little more, fight a little harder, it'll all work out. But deep down, we know better. So ask yourself, are you really moving forward, or are you just refusing to let go? Life has a rhythm, a current that moves beneath it all. It's always been there, steady, unshaken, carrying us forward. But we miss it when we're too busy fighting, too desperate to force things to go our way. The moment we stop thrashing, stop demanding that life obey our plans, we start to feel it. We realize we were never meant to conquer the waters. We were meant to learn how to move with them. But fear keeps us stuck. Fear tells us we need to hold on, even when what we're gripping is already falling apart. We drag burdens that no longer serve us, carry the weight of things that have long outlived their purpose. It's like hauling a broken raft across dry land, convinced we still need it to survive. But faith asks something different. Faith asks us to set it down, to walk forward, even when we can't see the next step, even when we don't know where the road leads. Because what if the very thing we refuse to release is the thing keeping us from where we're meant to go? Surrender isn't weakness. It's the moment we stop gripping what is breaking us and step into something bigger than ourselves. Fear makes us small. It convinces us that we have to hold everything together on our own, that if we let go, everything will fall apart. But surrender opens our hands. It teaches us to release, to trust, to finally breathe. And in that trust, we don't just exist, we live. We step into something deeper, something real, not just survival, not just making it through, but moving with purpose, with fire, with the kind of life that only comes when we stop fighting the waves and start walking forward. There's something inside you right now, something alive, something burning. It's more than just your thoughts, more than what you feel in passing moments. It's the very breath of life, a spark meant to move, to grow, to become something more. And do you know what fuels it? Love? But not the kind of love that just sits there, silent and comfortable. No, real love is a force. It pushes, it stretches, it moves things that seem impossible to move. It's the bridge between what's unseen and what becomes real in our lives. Love in action is what changes things. And here's the crazy part. The more we give, the more alive we become. The world tells us that holding on, protecting ourselves, keeping things close is how we stay safe. But the truth? When we pour ourselves out, when we love, when we give, when we invest in something beyond ourselves, we don't run empty. We catch fire. we step into something eternal. But here's the danger: choosing not to care. Because when we shut off our hearts, when we decide it's easier to stay numb, we don't just avoid pain, we kill the very thing inside us that makes us alive. A fire left untended doesn't just slow down, it goes out. And the same happens to a soul that refuses to feel. We don't have to know everything, we don't have to have all the answers, but we do have to want something, to fight for something. To believe that life isn't just about surviving, but about stepping out, risking, reaching for something beyond ourselves, because that's where real life is found. And something amazing happens when we do. Love doesn't just change how we feel, it changes how we see. The world stops looking like a battlefield where we're all fighting alone and starts looking like a place where we were meant to stand together. The more we love, the clearer things become. We start to see the connections we missed before, the bigger picture we were blind to when we were too focused on ourselves. That's why kindness and connection can't be separated. When we reach out, when we show up for each other, when we stop living like we're alone, we realize something. We've belonged all along. Love isn't just a feeling, it's action. It's not meant to stay trapped inside us like a good intention we never get around to. It's meant to move, to show up, to break through the walls we build around our hearts. It's not a rare, dramatic moment or a grand sacrifice saved for special occasions. Love is in the everyday, the way we listen, the way we give, the way we care when there's nothing in it for us. And here's where it gets wild. The more we give, the more we grow. The more we pour out, the more we realize we were never empty to begin with. Have you ever tried to help someone only to realize you were the one who needed it most? You thought you were offering strength, but somewhere in their struggle, you found clarity for your own. You thought you were showing up to encourage, but in their brokenness, you saw a reflection of your own wounds, the ones you'd been too busy to notice. That's not random. That's God at work. He weaves our lives together in ways we don't expect, so that in lifting someone else, we find ourselves lifted. That's how He moves, through connection, through compassion, through the moments we least expect. And here's what most people don't realize. The gifts inside us don't activate on their own. They aren't just sitting there, waiting to be noticed. They come alive when we step into the places where love is needed most. You'll never fully know what's inside you until you stand in someone's pain, in their loneliness, in their need, and see what God draws out of you in that moment. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for the perfect opportunity to prove they have something to offer, not realizing that the proving happens in the giving itself. That's what love does. It doesn't let us stay wrapped up in ourselves. It pulls us out. It shifts our focus beyond our own struggles, our own plans, our own comfort. It places us right in the middle of someone else's battle and whispers, "Give what you have." And when we do, we discover something incredible. God has placed more inside us than we ever knew. And once you see that, really see it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to a small life, a safe life, a life lived only for yourself. Because now you know, real life begins where love takes you. We spend so much of our lives waiting for the right job, the right opportunity, the right season to finally feel like we're stepping into our purpose. We tell ourselves, once I have more stability, once I have more resources, once life isn't so chaotic, then I'll start making a difference. But that kind of thinking keeps us trapped, always reaching for something just out of grasp, always believing we're not quite ready. But purpose isn't something that arrives when everything is perfect. It's not tied to a title, a paycheck, or a position. It's not something we step into someday. It's something we live out right now. It's in the small, hard, unseen choices. It's when we choose to love when it's inconvenient, to give when no one's watching, to show up when everything in us wants to walk away. Purpose isn't found in waiting, it's found in doing, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it doesn't seem to make sense. And that's where the real struggle begins, because the world teaches us to calculate, to be cautious, to think in terms of what benefits us. We hear it all the time. Be smart, protect your time, make sure it's worth it. Our minds are trained to analyze everything. What's practical? What's safe? What do I get out of this? But deep down, our hearts pull us in a different direction. Because purpose doesn't play by the world's rules. It calls us to stop for the person who can give us nothing in return. It moves us to reach out when it's uncomfortable, to sacrifice when no one is keeping score, to love in a way that doesn't make sense on paper. And the truth is, those are the moments that shape us. Those are the choices that define who we really are. Not the opportunities we wait for, but the ones we step into, right here, right now. For a long time, I thought if I could just stay ahead, think through every possibility, plan my way around problems, avoid risks, I could keep my life steady. I told myself that if I just tried hard enough, stayed careful enough, I could keep everything under control. But then life happened, and life doesn't ask for permission before it turns everything upside down. A moment came that I couldn't fix. No strategy could undo it. No logic could make sense of it. And in that moment, I realized the control I had been clinging to was nothing more than an illusion. I had spent so much time trying to build a life that was safe, predictable, manageable, but real life isn't any of those things. So I let go, not because I wanted to, but because I had no other choice. I stopped overthinking whether what I was doing was enough. I stopped waiting for the right conditions. I stopped holding back, worrying if it would be worth it. Instead, I just gave. I showed up. I loved. I stepped in when I saw a need, even if I wasn't sure how it would turn out. And that's when I saw the truth. The things that matter most in this life will never fit into a perfectly organized plan. They won't happen when it's convenient. They won't wait for you to feel ready. The moments that change everything will come in the middle of your routine, in the interruptions, in the unexpected turns you never saw coming. And the question won't be, was this part of my plan? It will be, will I answer when love calls me? Jesus didn't just talk about this, he lived it. He had places to go, people waiting on him, important things to do. But when a blind man cried out from the side of the road, he stopped. When a desperate woman reached for him in a crowd, he turned. He never treated people like interruptions because love was never an afterthought to him. It was the mission. And if we want to live a life that actually matters, we have to stop treating love like something we'll do when we have time. Because in the end, we won't be remembered for the plans we followed, the schedules we kept, or the goals we achieved. We'll be remembered for the moments we stopped, the people we chose to see, the times we let love lead us somewhere we never intended to go, but exactly where we needed to be. And that's the choice before us, not someday, not when it's convenient, but right now. Will we keep waiting for life to make sense, for the perfect conditions, for the assurance that everything will work out before we take a step? Or will we trust? Will we dare to believe that surrender isn't the end of control, but the beginning of freedom? Because the life we long for isn't found in holding on tighter. It's found in opening our hands, in loosening our grip on what was never ours to carry alone. God is already moving, already working, already leading us to something greater than we could have planned for ourselves. But we'll never know it if we're too afraid to step forward. The comfort of control will always call to us, but so will the quiet voice of faith, the voice that whispers, "Trust me, keep walking, I am with you." And when we do, when we step beyond fear, beyond hesitation, beyond the safety of what we've always known, we step into something real, a life not ruled by our limitations, but by His limitless love. A life not just measured by what we achieve, but by the moments we choose to love, to give, to surrender, and to trust. That's where we find Him, and that's where we truly find ourselves. So wherever you are right now, whatever burden you've been carrying, whatever fear has kept you from stepping forward, know this: you are not alone. The one who created you, who sees you, who loves you beyond measure, is already making a way, and He's waiting for you, not with demands, not with conditions, but with open arms. Take a deep breath. Release what was never meant to define you. And when you're ready, let's pray together, because this journey, this trust, this surrender, it was never meant to be walked alone. Lord, how many times have I exhausted myself trying to hold together what was never mine to control? I have clung to shifting seasons as if my grasp could keep them from changing, held on too tightly to what was slipping away, and worn myself thin trying to force what was never meant to be. I have fought against the inevitable, as if my resistance could rewrite what you have already set in motion. And now, here I stand, tired, empty, finally willing to admit what my heart has known all along. I was never meant to carry this alone. You are God, and I am not. And though my heart wrestles with this truth, I am learning that surrender is not the end of the fight. It is the beginning of peace. It is the freedom to stop clenching my fists around things that were never mine to hold. It is the grace to release what is crumbling, to stop swimming against the current, and instead to be led by your steady hand. Teach me, Lord, to trust you more than I trust my own reasoning, to believe that what feels like an ending may be the very doorway to a new beginning. Too many days I have been trapped in fear, tangled in the illusion that control could keep me safe. Fear has kept me small, whispering that if I let go, I will fall apart. But you did not create me to live weighed down by anxiety, confined by the endless what-ifs of a future I cannot predict. You call me to faith, not the kind that waits for absolute certainty, but the kind that moves forward even when the road is hidden. The kind that steps into the unknown, not because it is easy, but because it trusts the one who goes before me. So here I am, Lord, with open hands. I release the burdens I was never meant to carry, the expectations I placed on myself, the plans I tried to force into existence, the restless striving to figure everything out. I lay down my fear, my doubts, my desperate need to have all the answers. I choose to believe that what is beyond my control is never beyond yours. I choose to trust that even in uncertainty, I am never abandoned. I step into the unknown, not with dread, but with the quiet confidence that wherever you lead, I will not be lost. Let my life not be one of waiting for perfect conditions, for guarantees that will never come. Let me not withhold my love, my kindness, my purpose out of fear of being hurt or misunderstood. Jesus, you never hesitated to love. You never treated people as interruptions or burdens. You walked into broken places, into unexpected moments, and poured yourself out without reserve. I want to love like that, to live like that, to give like that. So here I am, Lord, done with striving, ready to be carried by your grace. Let me walk in faith, love in action, and trust without hesitation. For you are leading me, and with you, I will never be lost. Amen.